Welcome to Football's Coming Home. This is your third episode of our brand new VODCAST on YouTube. I'd like to say a massive welcome to Gaz. How you doing, my friend?
Doing very well, mate. Another hot day here in the Midlands. Enjoyed it very much.
It's been a hot day all over the UK. Yeah, we're down on the south coast here. Very, very warm indeed. And I'll tell you what is hotting up, the football, my friend. What a great game we've just seen. France have just beaten Germany. We're going to get into that match very shortly. We're also going to talk about Hungary and Portugal. Portugal beating Hungary 3-0 this afternoon. I think if we have time, we'll talk about the... can we say ball draw last night between Spain and Sweden, Netherlands beating Ukraine, and Austria beating North Macedonia? We're going to start with the game that we've just seen. France beat Germany. A strange old game that, really strange.
Yeah.
In the sense that Germany led or dominated possession, 57% possession to be precise, 9 attempts to France's 4. And yet France just felt like they could score at every chance, didn't they?
They really did. This is a game that's been kind of, everyone's had it on the calendar, I think, circled. The first kind of heavyweight clash of the tournament. And I think you're right, it was a real mixed bag, wasn't it? Because you sort of think, was it a good game or not? I think it was very much kind of, I don't think it lived up to the hype, let's put it that way. But I think France were great. I think, they were on the back foot, but I think they wanted that way, the early goal. Play on the counter. It looked like they were defensive, but they could have scored 2-3 more goals, a couple of goals disallowed. Looked dangerous every time going forward. So I enjoyed it. Yeah,
they did. They really did. It was a very interesting game. I wouldn't call it dull in any way, shape or form. It felt very end to end. And yet when France clearly gave up possession to Germany and created very little, but what they created, they were very efficient. 4 chances on goal, 3 goals, 2 disallowed. And I think it's probably fair to say those 2 goals should have been disallowed. But just an inch or 2 either side, and France were in, and they win this game 3-0. And then we're probably sitting here now going, how the hell did they win that at an absolute counter? Because Germany were clearly in this game throughout.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that certainly the first Mbappe disallowed goal, it was a travesty. The flag didn't go up earlier to spare us the sort of despair of missing out on what was a fantastic finish from the youngster there, Mbappe. But I completely agree, Stu. I think that Germany won't be too disheartened by this because I think that they can look at this and say they went toe to toe with the world champions, came out of it looking good, and obviously look with. I don't think there's any doubt they're going to qualify, especially with the third place teams going through as well. But they might feel the draw was a fair result, but. They won't be heartbroken over it. We know their mentality, don't we? Only too well.
Fully agree. Let's have a look at the 2 teams. So Germany there line up with Arsenal old boy and Bayern Munich superstar Gnabry, as he's pronounced. I used to call him Gnabry. Doesn't really matter. Havertz, of course. World champion now. Kai Havertz on the right and Muller up front. And such a strong midfield. Gundogan, Kroos and Kimmich. And that back line is very well known nowadays. And they dominated possession. Didn't create a lot from what I could see that was clear cut. And yet France gave up possession and created 4 very clear cut opportunities. I think it's fair to say for me that Pogba came alive in this game. And he has his critics at Manchester United. But in this game, I felt he dominated that midfield, created the goal, which went in off the side of Matt Hummels. Very unfortunate for Matt Hummels, of course, very experienced defender, both in the domestic league in Germany and, of course, internationally. But Pogba, for me, probably was man of the match and run that midfield in France. What were your thoughts on his performance?
I thought it was brilliant, like you say. I think he's just, it's open season on him every game, isn't it, for Man United in the Premier League? Yeah. I think people, I don't know what they expect from him. This kind of all singing, all dancing superstar, the flair, the hard work, the determination. They want everything from him, and he obviously can't deliver everything. But I think he does play in a different role for France, doesn't he? I think he's allowed to express himself a little bit more. He's not quite on the leash that Solskjaer has him on, and Man United managers prior to him have had him on as well. And I think that pass that obviously created the goal was something special. I mean, that was the highlight of the game. And I think, I like watching him. I find him to be a very good player. I know people talk about Has he got attitude problems? Does he work hard enough? I don't know. I prefer just to watch what he's delivering. He's a world champion. He's won countless league titles with Juventus, and he's stepped up again today for his country. So very impressed with him, and I think he could be one of the stars of the tournament based on that.
You know, sometimes I wonder whether playing with Kante in midfield makes the difference for Pogba, because at Man United he doesn't have that type of player, and I think any midfielder would love to play with N'Golo Kante. It just has everything. I mean, again tonight he was all over that pitch, and he breaks up play. I mean, what a steal for Chelsea for 30 odd million some years ago now. It feels just crazy value. But interesting from France. And I mean, in terms of their overall performance tonight, you could pick holes in it. Ultimately, they won the game, could have scored a hatful of goals. Do you see any potential issues for them progressing in this tournament? It feels to me like they're qualified from the group, no question. But beyond that, can you see any potential pitfalls?
You know what? I really can't. You know, I had them as my kind of pick to win the tournament from the start. Nothing I've seen tonight has changed that. If anything, I feel like they've beaten Germany tonight without performing to the full potential. You know that they've got more in the locker. They can dominate teams if they want to. They chose not to. I genuinely believe they chose not to do that tonight. They got the early goal. They were happy to sit back because they knew the threat that they carry on the break. You know, they can mix it up. The players they've got on the bench, we all know about Giroud and what he can bring in terms of his hold-up play and that type of thing. Got so many combinations they can use. And look, a key point for me is all the talk leading up to this game was about this kind of feud, if you like, between Giroud and Mbappe. And, you know, was this the start of another sort of 2002 World Cup French camp implosion? And I think they've answered that again tonight. They're very united. They're going to work hard, and if you beat that team, then you're winning the tournament for me. And nothing I've seen tonight has changed that view.
It's funny. Is there ever a tournament where France managed to get through without having some kind of bust-up fallout? It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Hi to Elliot in the chat room. Thank you for joining. He also says, Kante is so solid. The midfield can relax knowing he will win the ball and get it to them. Absolutely. Any football club in the world would take Kante in a heartbeat. Can you only imagine how much his value must be now, Gaz?
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, I feel like he had a year or two at Chelsea where he's a little bit under the radar a while, but this season he's stepped up. A European champion now. His performance in that final was fantastic, and he's shown it again tonight. His one-man midfield. Yep. It gives you the luxury to have more attacking players on because you know he's there sort of behind you, sort of backing you up. Brilliant player and such a lovely bloke as well. I think we all know that. He's probably the nicest man in football with it. So, yeah.
And also hi to Ryan in the chat room. Thank you for joining us, Ryan. I really appreciate your support. Germany, Portugal next. Yeah. Portugal won. We'll talk about Portugal very, very shortly. Cristiano Ronaldo back on fire. It's a tough one for Germany. I felt they'll come away tonight feeling pretty hard done by. Mm-hmm. And yet they go into to play Portugal, bang on form, lethal attack. And before they know it, they could find themselves scrambling away for third place. I mean, it could come down to that.
Could come down to that. I think that you only need one win, really, to have yourself in the conversation with these third places qualifying, which I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's for another day, maybe. But sure, Portugal's massive test for them. They've really got to bounce back for a win. I think they can beat Portugal. I don't think Portugal were great for the majority of the game tonight. They got taken, to the wire really by Hungary, and if it wasn't for that sort of elite superstar Ronaldo that they've got, then we might have been having a different conversation now.
We might have been, and that's a great segue into the next match. Hungary 0, Portugal 3, and many will look at that scoreline and think, Hungary were dominated by Portugal, and to a sense they were, because 65% possession for Portugal, 11 shots to 5. However, this is a weird one because there were times in that game where you thought that Hungary were going to somehow snatch this. And they almost did. Negro ran forward. He was marginally offside, had the ball in the back of the net. And I was looking at this game thinking, and I think it was about the 82nd, 83rd minute at the time, thinking there's a good chance here. Hungary are going to somehow snatched this from Portugal, despite the fact Portugal were dominant throughout. And for 80 plus minutes, Hungary really battled. And I just thought they did themselves proud tonight.
They really did. I mean, they've obviously drawn the short straw, sort of being in this group, really. The group
Boy,
of
have they.
you know, for the first time they've qualified for a tournament for a long time, and they end up in a group with these three teams. But yeah, did themselves proud. You know, I don't want to kind of patronise them at all, but you know, they've done a great job there. Defensive, of course. You know, kept the powder dry, really, the clean sheet for long enough. But look, you just can't legislate for Cristiano, can you? And I think that, quite frankly, I think it's great to see him imperious once again in this game, because we're going to miss him when he's gone. He's 36 now, and yeah, he's not going to be around for much longer. So he was the key, wasn't he? You know, he cracked this game open and brought it home by sheer force of personality in the end.
He really did, yeah. And when we look at that Portuguese team, you know, that for me is a really good, experienced starting 11. And what you can't see from that is their actual squad. They have 2 or 3 really strong players in every position. And I really rate this Portuguese side, always have done. I think in some ways the goalkeeping position is their weakness. You know, I think Rui Patricio is certainly on the way down as opposed to the way up. On having said that, though, you look at that front three of Bernardo, Jota and Ronaldo, and that could beat anyone on any day. That is a really, really strong lineup. And I think it was really good how Hungary managed to hang on so long and also nearly nick it at the very end.
Yeah.
How far do you think Portugal can go in this tournament?
It's an interesting one. I think that they'll be there or thereabouts, but I don't think they'll be there at the end. I think, are they still reigning champions? They're European champions. They won in 2016.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. So they're reigning champions. They've got something to prove. They want to hold on to that crown, clearly. But I just can't see past France, Stu. I really can't. I think they're the ones. Do you think they can go all the way?
I think there's something about this Portuguese team. They've got a strong squad. They've got strong players in every position, and they've got a world beater in Cristiano Ronaldo. And I felt that the ITV panel, I'm trying to think of the right word, were quite right in was it BBC or ITV? I can't remember. It was one of the two. But they made the comment after the game that Cristiano Ronaldo is both a team player but also an individual, in the sense that he's very, very happy to work with his team and make sure that they find a way to win, but he's also very happy to take the plaudits when they win too. And so he has to dominate, he has to be a part of front and centre. But on the other hand, ultimately it's a team game, and I think he recognises that. And all the success he's had throughout world football would suggest that's also the case. Today, I think, was a great example of that. In fact, you didn't really see Cristiano Ronaldo come alive until the back end of that game, when he suddenly popped up to score his 2 goals. Portugal, I think, are very strong. I think they've got players in good positions to win games. I think they've got effective players. I think they've got a good central midfield. I think they've got defensive players that can make a difference. Yeah, I think they can go far. I really do. Yeah. I'd hate for England to draw them in the next round.
Yeah, just looking at the squad there, absolutely. Just looking at the squad there, there's like some great talent in the forward positions that we didn't even see. So Andre Silva, João Felix, you know, you've got some great names there as well who can get him a goal as well. But you're right about Ronaldo. He knows how to pick his moments. We've seen that for years. I read a stat that he scored in Euro. He scored Euro 2004 17 years ago, and now he's doing it still here today. So brilliant.
It's interesting, actually. Elliot's in the chat's put third place qualifier lucky loser spot is interesting. Something had to be done as they wanted to extend it to 24 teams. Quite right, Elliot. And when you think of that group, I mean, that's what they call the group of death, right? It's put Hungary just happy to be there. At least they want it. Quite right. And in Euro 2016, I'd forgotten that they played out a 3-3 draw with Portugal, actually. Okay. So interesting. I think what Elliot's saying there, Hungary have the ability to be able to match anyone on their day. So perhaps we shouldn't rule them out. I mean, there's a natural feeling that Hungary will finish bottom of this group. But I'm not convinced they might. There might be an upset or two. But if you were to assume Hungary are going to finish bottom, who do you think would be a top 3 right now? In that order.
France, 9 points. I think they'll take the group with 9 points. I think they'll win all 3. I think Germany second, Portugal third, Hungary bottom.
So I'm going to go Portugal top. I think Portugal beat Germany. So I think Germany might finish third.
Well, there hasn't been a shock yet. And obviously it's not a tournament until there's a shock. So that could be the one.
It could very well be. Let's move on to the next game. Spain, Sweden, 0-0 the night before. Sounds like a ball draw. It really wasn't.
No.
Kind of. Spain dominated.
Well, yeah. It was a classic Spain. You sometimes you sit there watching Spain, don't you, with all the passing, all the possession, and you wonder, am I enjoying this or not? Is this entertaining or is this boring? Yeah. Do you remember there's that whole kind of discussion and debate, you know, when they were dominating, they won the Euro Championships, they won the World Cup, and people were there's this kind of, people got fatigued with tiki-taka fatigue, didn't they? I think there was elements of that last night, I've got to say. No matter what they tried, they just couldn't score, because I think teams can set up and they can really dig in against that style of play. And that's what they did, wasn't it, the Swedes, really? I mean, their keeper was fantastic, Olsen.
I think they had to be defensively solid. When you look at that Spanish team, the thing that strikes me is they don't have a decent forward. Morata's decent. I'm just contradicting myself. They don't have a great striker. They have a decent striker in Morata. Don't have a great striker. There's no Cristiano Ronaldo in that team. And
he's not an elite hitman, is he?
He's not. And we've seen that through forever club he's been playing at. We saw it at Chelsea. We saw it at Real Madrid before. I think that's the problem with Morata. I think he's good, but he's not great. And I think at this level, I think you need somebody great. And think back to Spain's team, you know, when they've been successful, they'd won Diego Costa up front, who just knew how to put himself about and knew when to be at the right place at the right time.
Fernando Torres.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. No, I agree. And that's what will cost them probably ultimately, because you need goals, don't you? You're going to have goals in your team. And you look at the other contenders and they've all got, as we described it, you know, that elite hitman who's going to get you goals. The chances that he was missing, I think Ian Wright mentioned, the conviction just wasn't there. It's like, you got to do everything to score. Like, it doesn't matter what's going on, just put it in the net. And his body position's never quite right. He's never quite there. It's always just, I thought it was awful really yesterday, Morata. And he cost them the game, didn't he? Because, you know, somebody else would have scored.
You need a decent striker at this level.
Yeah.
And I look at that team and I don't see where the goals are coming from. That's the problem. You know, in past Spanish teams, you had Iniesta and Xavi in there, and you knew you could get a goal from one of those two. You could get a goal from Diego Costa. There were one or two other players in there. You know, you even had Pedro. You had one or two others that could deliver a goal or two. But I just look at that Spanish team and think that's a good team for winning and retaining possession. But beyond that, I don't see a lot. So it brings me back to my question around Spain. What do they need to progress? And to be honest, I'm not sure they've got it in their squad. What about you?
No, I don't think so either. I think they're probably out of the group, but I don't see them going any further than that, which will be a shame for them because, you know, I think they're accustomed to success and going deep into these tournaments these days. But I think they need a bit of a rethink there, get some new blood in the squad. So.
A bit like Hungary, Sweden did nothing really for the majority of that game, but almost out of nothing, Isaac nearly scores. And if it weren't for Marcus Llorente, he could very well have scored.
Yeah. Great player, it seems, Isaac. I've not really seen much of him before, so I was kind of watching him for the first time. And I love his style that he's got. You know, he's this big kind of gangly forward, but the strength and his technique is there as well. It's like, obviously, the former player they had, Ibrahimovic, is sort of in that mould, really, isn't he? He can't quite handle him. And yeah, he was very unlucky, actually. I thought he had a great game. And I know there's been whispers about people have been interested in signing him to the Premier League. And I think a few more displays like that, and a few people will be looking at a release clause of his and possibly bringing him to the Premier League, which I'd love to see, actually.
I think he's made for a team that likes to play counter-attacking football. He can hold the ball up. He's actually got quite a decent amount of pace about him, but he can hold the ball up, bring other players in. A couple of comments in the chat room. We've got Elliot's puts typical Spain, slow burning first game, and they slowly build up as the tournament advances. Yeah, possibly. Maybe one game's not enough data to be able to review. Then Hiran, I'm sorry if I've mispronounced that. Hiran, maybe it's Hiran. Spain lack a physical centre forward. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He even makes reference to Giroud. Imagine if Giroud was there. Quite agree. I mean, that's exactly the type of player.
They signed one Frenchman in Laporte, didn't they? I
Well,
don't think they can quite sort of weasel it to get Giroud into the squad. But yeah, that tickles me to this day. The fact that Laporte's playing for Spain. I mean, that's one way of improving your squad, isn't it? Nick another country's player.
Yeah, but I mean, there's been plenty of countries have done it for years. I mean, Portugal have done it a few times, haven't they? And well, you could argue maybe England have done that in some examples as well, and some of the other countries.
Grealish is Irish, isn't it?
Maybe, yeah. Well, yeah, it depends how you look at it. There's plenty of Scottish and Irish players who could argue perhaps they could have played for England too. But hey, we don't mind sharing.
Not at all.
Netherlands, Ukraine. Now, this was a fun one.
Yeah.
This was a fun game. Netherlands, they've had some challenges coming into this tournament because they lost both their two central defenders, which has really made a difference to how they've set themselves up. Of course, they lost De Ligt, and they lost their Liverpool absolute incredible player, Virgil van Dijk. Both players missing from that starting 11, which meant they had to go for a back three with Blind, De Vrij, and Timber at the back with Van Arnholt, who's now available on a free, by the way, if any Premier League team or any other team for that matter wants to pick him up, and Dumfries. Weghorst is a very interesting player up front. We'll come to him in a short while. But the Dutch went 2-0 up. I thought it was plain sailing. Again, I felt they dominated, 63% possession, 15 attempts to 8. And somehow Ukraine found a way to bounce back, and they somehow equalised through two good goals and just capitulated. I don't know what happened. They ended up losing the game when, in fact, I thought they might have won it.
Yeah. Well, look, this is why we watch football, isn't it? Half time, it's 0-0. You think you're heading for a ball draw. Suddenly it's 2-0. Ukraine looked down and out. A couple of wonder goals. Yarmolenko scored, didn't he? I think it was the first one. The West Ham guy. It was a fantastic goal. And normally in that situation, the team that's kind of battled back from 2-0 down is in the ascendancy. And you think, if you're the team that's just thrown away the lead, you're sort of thinking, well, you're rattled, aren't you? And it normally only ends up in one way. You end up losing the game. But, credit to Holland. They dug deep and obviously managed to get the winner. Ukraine, maybe they gave with it, all their energy was gone, wasn't it, to kind of manufacture that comeback. So I feel a bit sorry for them. But look, that was the game of the tournament so far for me. Fantastically entertaining and really, really enjoyable.
So Netherlands are in with Ukraine, Austria, and North Macedonia. So you'd imagine the Netherlands could get 9 points from this group. Austria might have something to say about that, but I think the Dutch have got enough going forward. I was very impressed by Weghorst. I thought he looked really good. And again, another player that I think many Premier League teams will probably be looking at. Wijnaldum, I mean, what a player he's become over the years. Good luck, Paris Saint-Germain. I think they've bought really well there. And Depay, it looks like he's off to Barcelona. Yeah. And those two up front, I think, could give anyone a run for their money. How far do you think Netherlands could go in this tournament? First of all, are they guaranteed to qualify, do you think? Yes,
they're guaranteed to qualify. No doubt about that. I think just touching on the strike partnership you mentioned there, Weghorst and Depay, it's like that classic kind of combination, isn't it? The big man, the physical forward in Weghorst, and then the sort of smaller, more zippier guy who's buzzing around and sort of can produce a bit of flair as well. So I think they've got something that Spain, for example, don't have. They've got that forward, they've got that attacking threat. And I think that will take a while. Definitely get out of the group. Again, I don't know how far they can get. Can they trouble France? I'm not sure. But it's great to see him back actually, because they've had a few wilderness years, haven't they, Holland? In terms of like trying to get a squad back together after the kind of glory days of the 2000s. So it's great to see him. But I don't think they'll win it this time around. But they've got a nice young squad, and I think they've got a bright future for sure.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think Ukraine as well. They've probably got quite a few holes still in that squad. They look to me like a squad that's trying to build. They're trying to, find a way to build around certain players. Yarmolenko, I think, is the star in this squad. Yaremchuk played really well, great equaliser.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to possibly qualify, but still struggle to get any further in this tournament. Who's the standout in this game for you? Anyone get a special mention?
I like the player Dumfries, actually. I've heard quite a lot about him without really seeing much of him, but he's very powerful player. He's obviously scored as well. I mean, he's another one again. He's linked with the Premier League. A lot of these players are getting linked with Premier League moves. I think Everton were sniffing around him, so he's the one for me to watch in that team. I like him a lot, but Depay as well. He's had a bit of a renaissance in his career. Obviously, he's got his big move lined up now as well. He could be another one to watch in this tournament for them.
They've done pretty well for free transfers, Barcelona, this summer, haven't they? He's a decent one. Hiran says, Netherlands are relying on individual talents to score. However, there is no cohesion as a team. This allowed Ukraine to score. Netherlands will struggle against a well-drilled attacking team. I would agree with that, and I think that was pretty clear. What I would say, though, is Netherlands had enough to regain confidence and take the win. That, I would say, takes a lot, going 2-0 up. And in front of your crowd, and then somehow being pegged back in a major tournament. I've seen many, many teams just go, do you know what, we'll take the draw. We've got nothing left in the tank. But Netherlands really came back, and Dumfries got a really good winner. Yeah.
Well done to them. Best game of the tournament so far. Really, really enjoyed it.
I agree. Final game we're going to touch on is Austria and North Macedonia. Austria winning 3-1. We saw Austria play England in the friendly before this tournament started, and I think we all said they're going to struggle to score. How wrong were we? 3-1, first game. And it was kind of an interesting game, this really. Dominant display by Austria. Yeah. It was far more attacking display that I've seen. I wonder whether Alaba was the key here, because he certainly moved forward. He was playing in as almost like within a back three against England, and they moved him forward to almost a left winger in this game. We know how versatile Alaba is. We've seen that over the years. Dominated possession, Austria, 60% to 40% for North Macedonia, 11 attempts to 7, 4 corners for Austria. Really good performance. Austria, what did you think of them and their performance against North Macedonia? Or did you just think North Macedonia just aren't up to the standard?
A couple of things then. So, North Macedonia not up to the standard. It was nice to see Pandev score. It was quite an emotional moment for him, I think, the old warrior. Yeah. So fair play to him. But I think Austria knew that this was probably their big chance. I think we know. We've touched on it already. If you get one win in this tournament, you've got a good chance of going through. I think they've looked at their fixtures and they've thought, we've got to come flying out the block against these guys because we're a better team than them. We need to make sure we win this game because that gives us a sniff at getting through, even if we get turned over by the Dutch and even if we get turned over by the Ukraine. So fair play to them. They're not an attacking side. We know that. We saw that in the friendly we played against. So a very defensive team. Another team that, we said they wouldn't score many, and they scored 3 today. But look, they don't have much attacking threat. So fair play to them. They knew that to win this game, to have a sniffer going through. They've turned up and they've done it. I don't think they'll have much success against Holland. And I think, quite frankly, Ukraine will turn them over as well. But they've given themselves a chance of going through by winning this game, the must-win game in the group for them. So well done.
And Austria have really given themselves a chance of qualification by getting that victory. Like you say, Netherlands provides a much stronger test. And it's fair to say Netherlands may take 9 points in this group, I think. One thing I particularly liked, again, I'm going to come back to Sabitzer. We talked a lot about him over the last few games. And he's a player for me, plays for Leipzig. It seems he's available for 15 million. Again, a player that I'd like to see in the Premier League. He has so much going for him. He's so strong. He pushes forward. He's positive. He scores great goals. Again, in this game, I felt he was front and centre. He's, for me, the best player for Austria.
Yeah, best player. Alaba's had that sort of mantle, hasn't he, for a while, has been Austria's number one player, but I think Sabitzer's the main man for them now. He's pulling all the strings. He's their threat, and he's their go-to guy. So, great game from him, and I'll be watching him for the tournament.
Exactly. Before we go, I don't think we can go without saying having a special tribute towards one Cristiano Ronaldo. 11 goals in a European Championship. He's the first player to score in 5 successive Euro tournaments. I mean, that is so incredible for the player.
Mind blowing. Yeah,
it really is. I mean, what a talent. Years to come, they'll talk back about Cristiano Ronaldo and Leo Messi as being the 2 greatest players to ever live, I think, with the way we've talked about Maradona and Pele. For me, Cristiano Ronaldo is up there with one of the gods of football of all time.
Absolutely. He's there. who's to say it's not going to be the number one of all time? Obviously, the big debate is always Messi or Ronaldo. I don't like to get involved in that debate because I prefer to just enjoy what they're both bringing to the table right now. Touched on it earlier. Neither of them are going to be around for much longer. So let's enjoy them while we can. I saw a stat earlier today, Stu, and I think you'll appreciate this one being of a similar vintage to myself. And that is that the last time a European Championships took place in which Cristiano Ronaldo didn't score was, what was it? I've forgotten the stat. I built that up as well.
You have. You've whet my appetite. I'm waiting. I need it. Give it to me, Gaz.
We'll come back to that one. Let me find it. Hold on.
Well, there's another stat as well, which I'm going to buy you some time, Gaz. I'm going to put this up on screen. Cristiano Ronaldo, 134 goals all time in the Champions League, and 11 goals all-time European Championship top scorer. I mean, they're two phenomenal stats. To score that many goals in the Champions League is one thing. To score 11 goals in the European Championship is another. To score in 5 tournaments running is incredible. And he should take the plaudits. I mean, I can't say any more than that. Stats speak for themselves. No matter whether you like him or not, no matter how much you like him or dislike him, what you can't take away is he's beyond world class. He's kind of stratospheric.
He really is, and it's just fantastic to watch him. Look, the last time a European Championships took place that Cristiano Ronaldo didn't score in, Dennis Wise played in it. So you didn't think we'd be talking about Dennis Wise on this episode today, did you?
Somehow I considered it was a possibility, Gaz, but probably in my nightmares. There you have it. So that's 5 games of this Euro. I'm really enjoying this Euro tournament, Gaz.
Yeah, really, really enjoying it. Yeah, I think it's, we don't want to go too much into detail about what's going on over the past couple of years, year and a half, but it's what we've needed. Something today, actually, we didn't touch on it. How good was it to see a full house in the Portugal game?
Yeah.
60,000 fans in the stadium. It's just amazing to see it. And that's the kind of thing. This is what we want to see. We want to be entertained. We want to find a bit of joy again in this world at the moment. Yeah. So loving it, mate.
All we want to do is get some form of normality, and football is giving us that normality. I don't know what we would have done with the summer without football again this year. It's made all the difference. And do you know the best thing about it? After this tournament, we've only got 12 it's something like 16 months until the World Cup.
Indeed.
So we've been spoiled. We've got the Olympics this summer. We've got all this other stuff happening. Yeah, I totally agree. Guys, stay tuned to Football's Coming Home. If you like what you see, click the like button. Leave us a comment on the YouTube video if you don't mind. But also, just click the subscribe button. And probably more important than that, ding our bell. Tap our bell notification bar, which basically means when we go live, you get to hear about it. And you get this little thing comes up on your phone or your mobile device of some kind to say, we are going live. And you can join us and leave your comments in the chat room. Gaz, great. It's been a pleasure as always to work with you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, mate. Good to see you. Speak to you later on.
We're going to see you in just a couple of days' time. Until then, enjoy Euro 2020. Bye for now.